Hey, I think I am live. Hello everybody, anybody who's tuning in. Welcome back to the channel. If you are tuning in for the first time, which is probably unlikely if you're on live stream, but if you're tuning in or watching it on the replay, do hit the like and subscribe button. Hit that like button on this video and help it get out to as many people as possible. That would really be massively appreciated. And yeah, I'm here today to just do a live stream Q&A. I've not spoken to you guys for a while. Been busy doing stuff in the studio. I've been in there again today, all day mixing. So busy times here, making lots of music, writing a lot of music, producing a lot of music. So I thought I'd just catch up with you guys. And if you have any questions you want to ask, let me know in the comments, in the live chat if you're watching live, and also in the comments section if you are watching on the replay. Hey Catman, I thought you might be here. You are ever trustworthy, always here, one of the main men, always turning up on the channel. How are you doing? How's it going? Anyone else on the stream, don't forget to hit the like button and say hey in the chat. And yeah, any questions you have, I'm here to answer them. And just to hang out really, have a nice evening, have a nice time, and catch up in a way we haven't done for a little while. I think I kind of got into a habit of doing these pretty much once a month, so I'm kind of treating this as kind of April's live stream. So this is the Q&A for this month, and I'll do another one when it gets to May. Hey Christopher, good to see you, thank you for tuning in. But yeah, so I've been in the studio today. I laid down some bass on a track for a kind of electronic duo. This is Sky to Fox, and I used this MTD again, and I think this is the one bass that I think every time I pick it up and use it, it just sounds so good. There's just something really high quality, high class about the sounds you get out of this bass, and I really enjoyed it. For those of you who are interested, I ran it into just straight into an Avalon 737 preamp, so that's got the built-in compressor, and I used the compressor a little bit. I used quite a high ratio because it was kind of more of a slappy kind of part. But yeah, just these basses sound so good. And if I could only have one, I don't know, I kind of feel like I want it to be this one bass, because of the comfort and the playability and the sounds. It's got a lot of versatility. But I don't know, it's a difficult one. It's obviously got kind of its own style, and it's quite a bright sounding bass. So I think its use is kind of limited in some ways, in certain genres. But yeah, loved it, and I just dimed all the controls all the way up, and it sounded great. So that's a very MTD thing. Something cool about the MTD EQ is that you can turn it all the way up on all the knobs, and it sounds great. And it's something that I'd kind of not come across before, but since owning the MTD, it makes me a bit more exploratory with all EQ pedals. So yeah, that was kind of my bass stuff for the day. We have questions coming in, so let's go. Catman, always reliable with a good question. Think you're getting a Crybaby wah pedal, and I'm wondering, is it worth it? I did this. I don't have it with me actually. I think it's in a box somewhere. Since I've not been playing live, I've not been using it as much. But I used the Crybaby wah just as a really fun tool live. I had the mini one, so the mini Dunlop bass Crybaby. I definitely recommend getting the bass one, not just the ordinary one if you can. And it's cool. It's a fun little thing to have live. I don't know how often I would use it in a studio setting, unless you really wanted it. But it's cool for that kind of envelopey filter type sound. If you're playing a certain bass line with certain ways you want to hit certain notes and have that wah kind of effect, it's cool. I think it can get a bit overused quite quickly. But I used it for when I was playing country stuff, and we had a cover of Keith Urban's Never Coming Down, and kind of in the intro there, I was using it as a wah. There's a little part that goes ba ba ba, and I was just using it on those, and just as a crazy effect. So it's kind of a cool effect to have. I don't think it's a always use it, always on type thing, but it has its place live particularly, and just to give you something cool, a different little effect, and people notice it when you do use it. So maybe worth something considering. But if you haven't got other effects that are kind of more regularly used and always on, then I'd maybe look at those first. But it's definitely something fun to have around. But I think if you're just playing on your own, it can get a bit boring quite quickly. It's the kind of thing that you want for someone to look over and go, oh, that's really cool. And you have that little moment on stage. So that's my thought on that, Cowman. Thanks for the question. Carlo Andrea Sabatini, I think. Hello there, what do you think of Cort basses? Would like to try the A4 Ultra Ash or the upcoming B4 Element? Maybe they should send you some for reviews. They should send me some for reviews. I'm trying to get onto more companies to, put things in front of me, allow me to share things with you, and review more things, really. I have never loved a Cort bass, in answer to your question. I think they do make very solid basses. I know a lot of people will say, oh, Cort make all the basses for XYZ company, which is totally cool, I understand that, but Cort's own basses are spec'd differently to the basses they build for other people. One of the things I just never feel like I gel with a Cort bass. I feel like they're quite decently made. I feel like they're just fairly sterile in terms of their tone. Even the Jeff Berlin signature, I really don't get on with that bass that well. I went to a clinic with him and played that bass on stage with him, and I just didn't really like it. Just didn't do anything for me. So I'd say they make some cool stuff. They're decent. If you find one you love, that's cool. Do it and enjoy it. But I would personally look at something more like a Yamaha. I feel like they're more overall rounded instruments. Ibanez and Ruby K's got a mention of Sire in the comment below, and maybe something like the Sires might be worth looking at as well. Ruby K's, do I plan on demoing any Sire basses? I'm actually looking at just buying a second-hand one, just so that I can get a Sire bass demo up on this channel, because I know so many people ask me about Sire basses, and I've never played one. Alternatively, I'm just going to ask some friends and see if anyone's got one, because I know quite a few people that have used them or do play them. I've only ever heard good things about them, and it would be nice to be able to give a proper opinion rather than just kind of going by, what everyone else says. Because as much as there's loads of information on the internet and people say certain things, I found actually in the long term and in the long run, sometimes I don't really agree with all the internet hype about certain things. So yeah, I'm going to definitely try and get hold of one. If I can't get one from them now, I will definitely just go and buy one and sell it on. But yeah, I will do that. Christopher Black, thinking about getting a keyboard for synth bass, do you feel it's worth the investment? Do you feel your Moog is just collecting dust, or do you put it to use? Difficult one, this. I do use it, but I use it in the studio more than I use it live. I've had quite bad luck with it live. It's kind of a bit unreliable live. Taking it out, it's awkward to take because of the shape of it. So it's not easy. It's not an easy carry. It's not an easy load in. Obviously, then you have to have the keyboard stand. You have to have some way of switching it into your amp system and into the PA. So live, I don't think it's great. I think it's really cool for the studio and doing stuff at home and just laying, when you get a chorus come in, if you're producing something or whatever recording, having the synth to sit underneath and just fatten up the chorus is really popular in a lot of genres of music. And so that's cool to sit underneath and do that job. Does it need to be a Moog? Probably not. I think what the Moog has taught me is a lot about how to use a synth and the controls, and I know how to use it, and that's the kind of cool thing about it. I can quickly grab it and get the different sounds, maybe in a way that with a preset on Logic or Alchemy Synth or Omnisphere, any of those kind of things, it takes a lot longer to go through presets rather than just do it myself, which is what I do with the Moog. I think personally at this stage I would rather just have a Moog soft synth, so something like the Contacts. Is it Massive? Is Massive the one with the Moog, or is it? I think it's Massive, isn't it? But any of those Moog synth VSTs, I'd rather use one of those and take a keyboard controller with me and a laptop, because I actually think it's more reliable than taking an analog synth with you. It doesn't have the same sound quite. It's not quite the same, but for most instances it's going to do a great job, and by the time you put everything else on top, you probably won't notice that much. So it does get used. Isn't a terrible investment, but I think having the decision now, I'd use a soft synth instead. I'm really sorry, I cannot pronounce your first name, and I will work on my Welsh. I'm assuming it's Welsh. But yeah, leave it in the comments how to pronounce it if you can, because that's always useful just to learn. I've always played passive basses. I'm about to take delivery of an active PU bass. In terms of tone controls and sound, what are the main differences and some good rules to consider when using an active? Interesting question. It depends on what kind of controls you have in your PU bass. Of course, if you've got a tone control as well as the active electronics, I think that's really cool, and I've always enjoyed having that combination. If you do have that, definitely play with the tone control as well as the active electronics. So try boosting things and cutting with the tone control. You can get some really cool sounds and a much more versatile range of sounds by doing that. I would say generally there are no rules. I think there are no rules in terms of just having a bass and making it sound like you want it to sound. However, when it comes to playing it live, playing it, making it sit in a mix, there are kind of some rules you might want to follow, but it depends on what the EQ is and how it's set. But generally, I was talking about my MTD at the very start of this video, saying how with that EQ you can actually turn it right up and it still kind of sounds cool and it works. But some EQs you turn them right up and they completely destroy the sound. Like a Sadowsky EQ, if you turn it right up, that's just going to make it fall apart in terms of just so much bass that it's not really going to be usable. But for most active electronic basses, I would use the EQ, make sure you use it, turn it up a little bit, 25% or so, and just to see how it's feeling, see how it's sitting, go up to kind of 50% and see what's working. The thing with active electronics is for most circuits, when you boost the bass, you're going to just boost everything down below, and it can sometimes be a bit too much. Same with treble, you're boosting, sometimes it will be a high shelf, and so it just boosts everything from the treble frequency it's set to and above. So just be delicate with it, just work it out, and when you're in a band mix, be conservative with it until you know that it works. So if you start off with it kind of 25% on each, is what I do with the Sadowsky, and then just boost it as you like. But ultimately, play it as you like, and use it in the way you want to, and cross those bridges when you come to it. Meta shape. Do I play Flatwounds sometimes? Which ones? Yes, I do play Flatwounds. They are on my Warwick Star bass, which is behind me. It's the white one just there. It's really hard to do that one. It's got Labella low tension and flexible flats on it. I really like them because I like a more flexible Flatwound. However, the Labella normal Flatwounds I do think sound more like that classic tone. So if you have a P bass and you want to put flats on that, I'd probably go for the Labellas, not on the flexible ones, because they just have that classic tone you've heard a million times. But I personally really like the low tension flexible ones because they allow me to get into the string a bit more, get a bit more vibrato, a bit more expression, and also they're a little bit more comfortable on the hands, and it doesn't feel like I'm fighting them quite so much, given that I usually like to have a medium action rather than a low action. So yeah, the better low tension flexible flats is the answer to that one. Oh no, another name that I'm going to butcher. Sorry, Bavuna Wayu? I really don't like this. This is like a horrible game that's going to go wrong at some point when I say the wrong thing. Have I ever tried the vintage modified jazz bass Squier? I think I might have played one once or twice, but not very seriously or for a long time, just in passing. I think the vintage modified stuff is quite good, to be honest. I've had fairly good luck when I have played them. So yeah, I think that's kind of my opinion so far. They're decent. Again, it's a Squier. If I had a choice, I'd go for the player series now. I'm really starting to kind of see how great the player series is in general, and I know a lot of you guys on the comments are saying, oh yeah, the player's where it's at now, and I kind of agree. I think the player series is really a step up from what used to be the old Made in Mexico basses. But yeah, decent basses. Any more questions, let me know on that one. Catman again, have you ever gotten a Fender mod shop bass? If you have, are they good quality? No, because it doesn't exist here in the UK, which is kind of sad. I'd love to try that out and have something that's kind of custom made in that way. I know it's not heavily custom, but yeah, for us it's really custom shop or nothing. I'm assuming they're pretty much the same as just the American Pros, but I'm not really sure. So you're going to have to be the guide on that one, my man. Okie dokie. Next question. What books would I suggest to practice at home, from Ilias? I really like the Standing in the Shadows of Motown book. I don't have any books with me at the minute, which is really sad. I've just realised that. So I can't grab things and go, oh yeah, you should try this. Yeah, so practically, I like the Standing in the Shadows of Motown book. I think that's really cool from in a whole load of ways. It's got the transcriptions of various Motown tracks and also individual bass players kind of giving their thoughts on the track and why it's so great, and their just their thoughts about what James Jamerson did in the Motown stuff. And I really like that book for a variety of reasons. One, because there's so many different styles of, obviously there's the Motown style of bass playing that Jamerson exhibited, but also you have all these different artists. So it's kind of got a whole range of styles of bass line, and some of them are quite complex, as you know, there's things like Darling Dear in there, which is probably one of the most crazy but great melodic bass lines ever played, which is super complex. It's difficult to play. But then you also have some quite simple things like Heard It Through the Grapevine, and I think just the variety, that's quite cool. You can pop the actual original Motown tune on and just hit play. I enjoy that. Other than that, to be honest, when it comes to books, I used a lot of the rock school stuff here in the UK when I was at school and had bass lessons, and that was just for reading really and to kind of push things a little bit. And outside of that, it's just been really pushing quite complex books, so things like Damien Erskine's what is it? There's 2 Damien Erskine's methods, and I think they're really cool. One of them is kind of more focused on chords and modes, which is not Right Hand Drive, it's the other book. I can't remember what it's called now. And I did like that book. I kind of had bits of that and used bits of that. The chord section on that is really cool and useful to kind of expand how you think about the fretboard. And Jacko, there's a Jacko bass method book, which I own as well. Again, quite a tough book in general to get through, and none of it's really easy. It's a lot of different arpeggiated scales and things. So yeah, they're kind of higher level books, all of these that I'm talking about really. But I enjoyed those, so have a look at those. Those are kind of things I suggest. It always depends on what you're into and what level you're at really. But yeah, those are kind of the more advanced books that I looked at and used, and I didn't really use that many books early on. Just mostly done by ear. Christopher with another question. What makes Sadowsky stand out from American Fender? I'm interested in Sadowsky because of a different voice, but can't justify the price jump from getting a Fender. What makes them different? The build quality is impeccable. The build quality on American Fenders now is very, very good. So I can see that not being quite as big of a thing. I think you really are paying for the Sadowsky preamp. You're paying for some of those lighter weight features like the hip shot tuners if you're on a Japanese model, and again on the American models, but I always think of the Japanese ones as totally good enough. Obviously they don't exist now, so now we're looking at the German ones. The jury's still out on those ones. I haven't actually played one, but the kind of reports have varied on those. But yeah, for me, a Sadowsky, the benefits are, you're going to get a decent weight bass, because that's one of the big selling points and one of the things they focus on. You also know you've got a really versatile preamp there with the tone control and the boost. So that really is the thing about the Sadowsky, is the sound. The pickups you're getting and the preamp, it sounds really, really good, and it fits in so many styles of music and so many mixes. It takes the guesswork out of it, but Fenders are so good as well. It's really a taste thing. If you like what Sadowsky do, if you like the feel of a Sadowsky, if you like the sound of a Sadowsky, and if you want certain features that you can't get on a Fender, or certain specs, that's a reason to go for a custom shop Sadowsky, or to order your own Sadowsky. Other than that, I just think the electronics are really good, the pickups are really good, and the feel and lightweight is always spot on, really, and the neck profiles are always great. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of kidding myself if I say a Fender isn't really good and isn't just as good and useful a tool as a Sadowsky. I think it's pretty much electronics, and knowing that it's kind of built by a smaller team of people, or Roger himself, and that they do feel very finely crafted and honed, and like a lot of care has gone into them. But as a tool for gigging, you can totally use a Fender and be very happy. And I've got unused Fenders, and I've got a custom shop Fender behind me, and if someone gave me a Fender with some good strings on it, I would be absolutely happy on pretty much any gig. So that's, yeah, it's hard to justify on their own, really, but I do love my Sadowskis. The PJ5 I've got just feels great and is perfect for so many different types of music, and you can't get one as a Fender, so that's one of the things for me. So yeah, good question, and it made me think. Ratio's just arrived, bless him. Metal shape LFTs on your Jazz. Yeah, they work really well on the Jazz bass, I think. Nope, he's so going to go in front of the camera every time. Oh, come on, mister. Yeah, there we go, noisy cat. There we go, he's off now. Sorry, yeah, low tension flats. Yeah, I think flats sound really good on jazz basses, and I don't think people use them on jazz basses enough. So yeah. Response to that. No problem. Ridwin, thank you very much. My Welsh is terrible. I only know Spudiol for bin, and that's only because it's written on all the bins in Wales. So thank you, and glad you like the information. Joel, hey Tyler, want to get a passive 5-string for around $600 to $700 US. Anything I should look at first? Opinions other than Sire or Fender? Is that options other than Sire or Fender? I'm guessing. I'd look at Yamaha. I know that the BB735 is passive and active, as in it's active with a passive switch. But I think that's a more versatile option, and I think it comes in your price range. It definitely does second hand. Whether you are looking new, I'm not sure. But that's my personal favourite choice in that kind of price range. Or even just one of the 4 series Yamaha BBs. They are definitely passive, and they're great. Just really, really good basses. And if you want to, you can change out the pickups. Let me know if that was what you were asking though, because I may have got that very wrong. But I would look at the Yamaha BB series in that price. Anything else that I can think of? Maybe Warwick rock bass stuff. Though most of those are active, but you get a couple of things in that region that are passive and 5-string. Including the Starbase passive, but that's a very specific thing. So let me know if you've got more info on that. But yeah, those are my suggestions. Jimmy Perez, hey Tyler, I hope you're well. What do you think about the new Ampeg Rocket line? And also, I'd like to know your thoughts about the 2-note low bass as a DI. The new Ampeg Rocket line, now that is something I did not know about. So I'm gonna quickly search this, because I knew that the old Rocket bass existed. That's really cool. I don't know how I've missed that, but that is cool information. What have we got in here? We have got the Rocket bass combo. I mean, the old ones were really cool, and I think I've mentioned before my 100 combo being an absolutely amazing alternative to a B15. I'm going to check these out. I do not know is the answer, but that looks like, I mean, it looks like their take on the Fender Rumble stuff, right? And they're using the BB735 in the demo, of course, so that's cool. But yeah, I will check those out, but they look very much like Ampeg's answer to the Fender Rumble, which would make sense, and it's kind of been time for them to start revamping and refreshing with the new Yamaha deal and everything. So I don't know, haven't played them, but I will find out for you if I can. I'd also like to know your thoughts about the 2 notes low bass as a DI. Not something that I've used much. I know they're super versatile, and I know 2 note stuff is really good. I don't think you can go wrong with it from what I've seen, what I've heard. I've not used one myself. The 2 note stuff always seems to do a bit more than I need. You know, when I've got Helix and other things around that kind of take that place and do that job. So I've never really used them because I know that they've got so much good stuff on board. And I also know that in the the amp world that their attenuator box is kind of the go-to thing, and their modelling is really good when it comes to cab sims and stuff. So yeah, that would be my thought. Go for it if you've got the option. I'm just going to grab some water. One sec. If you're new to the stream, don't forget to hit the like button. I really appreciate that. That really helps me out. And yeah, hit the subscribe button if you're new around here. But I think most of you guys are people that I've seen or caught here before. Noisy cars going past. You probably just picked that up on the mic. But yeah, also if you've got any questions left, put them in the comments. And if you're in the live chat, put them in the chat. And if you're on the rewatch, put any questions you have in the comments, and I'll happily answer those later on. I'm going to do another 20 minutes or so, so we'll be finished by about 6:45 UK time. Cool, right, where are we at? I never know how to pronounce this because it's not really a full name, is it? Quivi MC, but it's not really, is it? What is your favourite bass, why, and how much did it cost? Difficult question. I was kind of mentioning this at the start. I think this MTD is my favourite bass. It was very, very expensive for a bass, and I sold a lot of basses to be able to afford it. I love the fact that the neck is asymmetric, so from a side profile, when you look at it this way, the bass side of the neck is thicker, and then when you have it this way around, you probably can't quite tell, but this treble side is a lot thinner, and that feels super comfortable when you're playing. So you're playing your major scales or something. When you kind of are up in this position here, it feels so easy, so easy. So yeah, it's really comfy to play, really easy to move across the length of the neck, no matter what position you're playing in. It also has the benefit of having a bit more wood behind the low B, which I think is critical to getting a low B in my experience. You always get more low end from a thicker neck and a bit more low end response. So having a bit of a thicker neck under that B string really, really helps, without hindering your access and ease of playability up at the top. The EQ is also pretty, super versatile. You've got the 3-band switch, so you've got 200 Hz, 400 Hz, and 1000 for your mid-range. You've got, I think it's a 40 Hz boost down on the bass, which is probably a bit low for most uses, but it's very broadband, so it's boosting everything above. I'd combine it with a high-pass filter, which is what I did in the studio today, to just take a little bit of the super low end out, and you still have a really nice fat bass sound, but you just don't have any of the rumble and rubbish you don't need. And you've got the treble, I think it's about 6K on this bass. But you can use all of them, boost them as much as you like, or cut as much as you like, and you get a load of different tones out of it. The one thing that I kind of is difficult about it is it's probably a little bit bright in general, but you can tame it. So you can tame that, and it all comes away with that EQ. So yeah, this bass really comfortable, good weight. It just sounds expensive in the best way. And I was thinking this today in the studio. I plugged it straight into the Avalon, and just thought it sounds expensive. It sounds great, but in the best way. You don't want something to just sound expensive and not fit in a mix, but it fits in a mix and it sounds like a great bass. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that. Second, kind of in the same breath, would be my Sadowsky PJ5, which I'll grab. This guy, which is kind of, they're not that dissimilar, are they, really, if we think about it. 5-string bass, got the PJ set up, which I think is super versatile. Got your boost on your bass and your treble, which is really simple. I like the simplicity of this bass. It's a Fender style sound, so people know what they're expecting, and it's more traditional. So you can come in and play a more traditional sound with one of these, whereas the MTD definitely has its own thing going on. It's a bit more of a statement in the bass world. This can really blend in if you want it to. You've got the passive option as well, which is really important to me. For when you're on a gig and your battery runs out, which I've had with the MTD. I literally finished playing a rock set with electric upright bass because that's all I had. Yeah, it's just Fender but better really, from my perspective, just because of the electronics, and it's a very well built and made bass, and you can't get a PJ5 in a Fender. So yeah, that would be my other choice. They're both the two basses that I would want to part with last, because they're both amazing instruments. So there we go, that's that. Thank you for your question. Next question from Mark Dominic. Are the Fender brand Flatwounds strings great, or should I get labellas? I think the Fender Flatwounds strings are pretty decent, to be honest. I quite enjoy, and have enjoyed them when I've used them. You can't really go wrong with them. If you've not really used Flatwounds before, I'd use them and see where you are from there, because they're quite cheap as well, aren't they? I think they're reasonably priced. Labellas are really, really good, and I'm becoming very quickly a bit of a labella fan, and kind of seem to just praise labella strings all the time. But they've been doing it for years, and they are really good. So, you know, it's definitely worth investigating labella strings. I think more generally the Fenders are more neutral. They don't have quite such a voice to them in the way labellas do. Labellas kind of do have that naturally vintage voice. The Fenders just sound like a solid Flatwound string, and you kind of take it from there and make of it what you will. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. No problem, Elias. Just bought a Metro in Germany. I'm impressed, coming from Fender. Nice. That's good to hear. That is good to hear. What are the specs on yours? Is it a modern? Is it just a J5 or what? Let me know your specs on that. But that's super cool. I mean, Warwick makes good basses, so I'm not surprised that you've had a good experience with your Metro line. But yeah, let me know those other bits of information. No worries, Catman. Appreciate you being here as always. And another question from Federa 4. What is my thoughts on Aliva Coppola basses? Is that how you pronounce it? Maybe it's Aliva Coppolo. I don't know. This has been a real live stream of trying to pronounce things very badly. I haven't used them, to be honest. I don't think I've played one. I think I've been in the same room as one, but I've never played one. So I can't really give you my thoughts on it. I do. The only little thing I could say is that I think the headstock is really ugly. But other than that, I've heard really good things about them. Great vintage style basses. They're up there, aren't they? No doubt. So I haven't used one, but I would definitely like to give one a play. Opinion on what the best hollow body bass is. Fully hollow or semi-hollow? Would be my first question, because I don't think I've played many fully hollows that have been great. I played the original Framus Star bass, and that was fully hollow, and it wasn't a great bass, to be fair. That one was in real need of some love. My personal favourites, it's difficult, this one. My Star bass is awesome. So that's a great bass. It's a great modern way to have a hollow body bass. It's got the blocks through the centre. It's got some really nice... it's got good quality electronics. The pickups are great. They suit modern stuff, but they also suit that more vintage tone if you need it. You've got the Warwick bridge and hardware, which is just, really great modern stuff. So in the modern era, I'd say that's kind of one of the best things you can buy for a hollow body bass. Now looking vintage, just Gibson, just so many Gibson things. I'd love to play an EB2 regularly and have one, an EB2D more specifically, but I just never have found one that worked for me, that was in good condition, and was at a good price. It's you got to kind of find all of those together, and it's more limited than my Starbase. So for me, the Starbase 2 is really hard to beat. Again, the Les Paul signature bass, I'd love to play one, I'd love to own one. I've looked at them a couple of times when they've come up. They're very rare basses, and I know they kind of become a bit of a thing in Nashville, where they did 2 or 3 years ago for all the session bass players out there. They all had one. But the Epiphone, what's the model? Jack Cassidy is pretty much exactly the same bass as the Les Paul signature bass. So that's another option as well. But for me, the one I've played the most and the one I've stuck with is the Warwick Star Bass 2. So that would be my personal choice. But I love a hollow body bass. I mean, even the Thundercat Ibanez, that looks super cool as well. I personally just like a more traditional look on a semi-hollow body bass. When it goes to, I like that, the EB2 look, the Gibson Les Paul, the Epiphone Ilias with the Epiphone Rivoli, so and the EB2 is the same as a Rivoli, really, just different name on the headstock. But yeah, that style is what I love. That's kind of classic. So I've always kind of stuck with basses that are like that. But I wish more people made more semi-hollow basses, because I think they just sound so good. There we go. Joel, this helps. Thanks for great info. No problem at all. Jamie, thank you as well. Mark, no worries. Thank you. Let's do another few minutes and then I'll disappear. D. Genta. Hey, love your videos. You make anything sound great, which confirms we spend too much time messing over here. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's really kind. What is your first most important practice method? Cool. Let's talk practice. I like practice. I like talking about practice, and something that I don't do as much now, really annoyingly. I've ended up playing every other instrument and being in the studio playing and producing tracks for people. For me, the first and the most important thing I do, not just on bass, but on any instrument, is to work on just playing in all 12 keys, through simply just playing major scales, and then changing to minor scales, changing through your different modes and everything. And just going through what would be the cycle of fifths. So yeah, I literally would just play a C major scale like this, back down, and then to F, then across to B flat, and then be doing that with the metronome, quite simply, so that you've got something there to tell you exactly when you should be playing the notes. Change the speeds up and down, so have it nice and slow when you're learning it. Get faster and faster and faster over time, over your different practice sessions. And then when you've got it fast, go back to slow or hideously slow. And just work on the precise motion and really strengthening how careful you are with each placement of your fingers. So that, you're feeling every muscle, desperately wants to get there, and you're really controlling the muscles in the hands and really doing everything you can. But yeah, doing it in all 12 keys, with your minor scales as well. So same, once you've done your majors, work on your minors. And just focus on the technique, focus on thumb being behind the neck, focus on making sure your fingers stay down as much. I have a little bit of a problem with this finger. I try desperately not to, but it naturally wants to float. So trying to keep your fingers nice and close to the fretboard so that when you want to play those next notes, you're ready and it's there. Yeah, so that's kind of... I'm going to just hide that, make sure you can see what I was doing. Just double check again. So say you're on C. So that kind of technique, making sure that you're doing that, and then you move across, you move to your F. And keeping a really consistent fingering as well is what you want to do. Up to your B flat. E flat. But yeah, that would be my primary method, is going through all of those 12 keys, round the circle of fifths all the way, and then just changing your tempo. And that's going to really help boost the health in your hand, making sure that your hand is nice and strong. It's going to boost your timing by making sure that when you are hitting the note and ending the note and dampening the note with your right and left hands, that your notes have a really good length between them. You don't want to be going da 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 da. You want to be da 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 da. Nice, really consistent level. Not going da 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 da. Because as much as bass playing is about playing the note, the thing about playing bass is about the kick drum hits and you play the note, and you are just then dictating the sustain of the bass in the band. So a kick drum boof, and you're playing your C, you're playing that, or whatever other notes you're playing, all the way until the next kick drum. So you've got to be really in control of the length of your notes, most importantly. But yeah, that's kind of my main practice method that I suggest to anyone. It's not exciting, but it will get you better and make you play better and make you more consistent as a bass player. And it's also going to give you all those notes and teach you all the notes and where they are on the fretboard. So would be my thoughts on that. I hope that's helpful. I love practice questions, so any more questions on that kind of stuff, technique, let me know. Michael Jablonski, checked many great semi-hollow last year. I would check it out. I'm not huge on my sectors, so I'm not all up on it. So I will check that out. Just get your last couple of questions in if you can. I'm going to go in the next kind of 4 minutes or so. Thank you for everyone who's been in so far. What is the best bass I can get under $300? I have a cheap P bass and I want something with a more narrow neck because the one on my P bass is way too big for me. Okay, that's cool. It's good that you know what you want as well. It's cool that you've played something and you know that that's not going to work for you, which is always helpful. My personal favourite is the Squier Classic Vibe Jaguar bass. 32-inch scale, so it's a little bit shorter, but a really nice slim neck. I think it just about might scrape in around $300. It definitely is going to scrape in around that price second hand. I can definitely guarantee that. I think. Can I guarantee that? I'm not going to say guarantee. Depends who's selling it, of course. But I think, yeah, you could get one under that price. Or just a jazz bass from that range as well. Any of the Classic Vibe jazz basses, you're going to get a much smaller neck, smaller profile. If you still want to stick with the P bass, try out the Squier Classic Vibe 70s P bass. That neck is really, really narrow. Really slim. Not so narrow width-wise, but really, really slim, small neck. Which doesn't really feel like a P bass to me. It feels very much like a slim jazz. So check that one out. It's something I would point you towards. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that one. No problem. Thank you so much for asking me. I should probably do more videos on that kind of stuff. Because you're right, it's not about the gear. And I'm starting to get to that point where it's not about the gear, it's about everything else. And you can do most things with a very minimal amount of gear. Zach Stoddard. Favourite bass book, technique, biographies, or anything, but what do you love to read? What do I love to read? So I kind of answered this earlier with, what were my three? They were Standing in the Shadows of Motown, which is cool because it's got a bit of both. It's got the stuff to play in it. It also has the biographical element of different bass players and their relationship to Motown and Jameson. And yeah, it just has, it has all the information you could possibly need to be kind of playing that kind of, the Motown music. And it's just fun. It's really great to play along with. It comes with a CD and some other stuff. It's really useful. So that's in there. So Standing in the Shadows of Motown. Damien Erskine's Bass Method, which I can't remember the name of now. I'm going to have to find the name of this because it's really, really annoying me. Not Right Hand Drive. Come on. What is it? Everything just brings up Right Hand Drive. I don't want Right Hand Drive. I want the other one. Right Hand Drive definitely is the most popular book. So The Improviser's Path. That's the name of the book. And that was really cool for me when I was studying jazz and going down that route. I enjoyed that one, and it kind of helped open up the fretboard, open up chords, and play more stuff on the bass in general, making the bass my main instrument, my main way of communicating music at that point in time. Jacko, the Bass Method from Jacko Pastorius, is written by one of his students, but I think it's really cool because he's kind of got notes and things he's taken from Jacko's lessons, and he's put them into this one book and talks about kind of the things he used to say to him, and just kind of gives Jacko's main principles in a book, whilst also giving you loads of exercises. It's quite tough, some of it, in a way. It's not tough if you sit down and get through it, but it's quite tough to get through because it's, all this stuff, again, like the exercise I was just showing you guys, it's not so much exciting stuff to play. It's a lot of stuff that's going to get you in good health and make you able to play anything, but isn't playing, you have to really start to love playing arpeggios, love playing scales, love playing all those things. So yeah, that would be my thoughts on that. Anything else that's kind of biographies? I did read the Gene Simmons book when I was a lot younger, and and I liked Kiss at the time. I don't really think that would be a great bass book now. I think if I look back and read that now, I'd think less of myself, probably a little bit less of myself. But I quite enjoyed that at the time. But yeah, I don't dive into too many biographies, too many things like that on the bass playing front. When it comes to reading generally, I'm quite into anything that kind of just is kind of a bit self-helpy, a bit different ways of thinking about things, different ways to approach things in life in general, with regards to motivations, with regards to habits, with regards to ways of thinking about things. And I'm really big into kind of emotional understanding and psychology and anything that helps us understand ourselves. I'm quite into as well. So I've been reading a lot of things like that. And a lot of things about productivity. I think it's something that I always struggle with. I always want to be more productive. When you have, when you're a musician, when you're doing YouTube stuff, anything like that, you kind of got to maximize your time if you want to be successful. In a way that you probably, back in the day when people were paying you to make music and record labels paid you advances and there was more money in the music industry, you probably didn't have to do quite as much as you do now. And now you have to wear a lot of different hats, be really busy, be permanently occupied. So yeah, reading things on productivity is something I like to do, and I read a lot of stuff about engineering and mixing at the minute, and producing. So I'm more on that side of the fence at the minute, than anywhere else. But great question, thank you. No problem. Thank you for asking all the questions. No problem, my man. Thank you. Last two questions I'll do here. The last two in the chat. Is Fender Justin Meldal Johnson Roborn Mustang bass a good buy? I nearly bought one a couple of times. I got a shop to order one in, the Guitar Centre, which you guys know I've done a few reviews for. They got one in, and then I changed my mind and went, no, I don't think I need it. But they sold those very quickly, and they said they were great. I played one. I think it's a great bass. Feels really good. I love the road-worn, that kind of feel. And also I think it feels a bit better than the other Mexican road-worn basses. It feels a bit more authentically road-worn. So I really like the JMJ Mustang bass, and it's one that would be on my list of, if I had just unlimited spare funds to just have as many basses as I liked, that would probably be on the list of something that I definitely have on the wall and would pick up probably quite regularly just to play and practice. So yeah, good bass, definitely a good bass. Quest Patch, before you disappear, last question. Just to add to the bass world, we'll be getting Sire's U5 very soon. Where would you point a beginner with intermediate guitar experience to? Oh, that's a great question. I think the best place to be is, I point you to anything you enjoy listening to. One thing I really find useful when I'm switching from an instrument to another instrument, so at the minute I'm trying to get on the piano game. I've always had a couple of lessons when I was younger for maybe 6 months or something, but I was kind of at that level where I wasn't ready for I was more musically advanced than beginner stuff would interest me, and I was also quite a lot younger. I was kind of 13 or something, and the content that teacher had was mostly for younger people than that, and it just didn't interest me. And I found the best way to learn any instrument is to go back and play the things that you enjoy playing on your main instrument, and then start playing on the different instrument. So for me, the other day I was playing on the piano stuff. I'm really, really basically not great at piano. I know where the notes are, but my technique is not there at all. So I'm trying to get that together. And I just started by playing Hurricane by Luke Combs, because I used to play that in a band on guitar, and I've played it on bass before. Hey, Horatio's meowing. It's time to go, clearly. But yeah, I played it on bass, and I know how the track goes. I know about the track. It's just cool to see it from a different perspective. So I suggest just listen to things that you love and you love playing on guitar, and go from there. Start playing stuff that you know how to play on guitar on bass, and do that. Honestly, I think that's the best way to go with any of these kind of things. I wouldn't dive too hard into any method books or anything. Get an idea of where your technique's at. If you want advice on technique, ask me, send me messages on Instagram, whatever. I can help you out. And I can make videos for people. If you want me to do videos that go down that road, I'm happy to do that and help people out. Because I think that's the most important thing, is get your technique good and play what you want to play. So play what you enjoy listening to, and just have fun with it. So that'd be my advice on that. And when you get further down the road and you want to push yourself, then maybe start diving into something, start diving into reading, start diving to things that are more complex, that you don't know how to play and that you need some reference for. You need something to help you and to show you. But as bass players, a lot of the time we're going to be asked to just play stuff. And so if you can learn to play by ear and play what you know, you're going to be in good stead. So there we go. That is the live stream for today. Thank you so much to everyone who has tuned in. If you are still here and you haven't already, please hit the like button. And if you're watching this on the replay, hit the subscribe button. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments. And I will see you guys very soon. More videos coming soon. Got a couple of sponsor videos I'm doing for different people. But trying to all tie it into the channel so it's relevant to you guys and everything. So thank you so much for coming. Horatio's about to say goodbye. There we go. That's his little whiskers. And I will catch you all later. Thank you so much. Bye.